What's going on, everyone? Matic here, and today we're going over one of the three main punches within boxing, a hook. So let's go over on what actually a hook is and why we might throw it. Now, technically, I personally consider a hook to be a very lazy punch, highly effective, but still a lazy punch. Now, why is that? Because the hook punch is the answer to a very simple problem. If my opponent has a guard or a good guard to whatever their position is relative to me, say they have especially if they have gloves on or anything like that, if they have a close guard here, me trying to go in with straights or anything like that, they're able to block it pretty much a little bit easier. And especially, again, if they have gloves, they can just cover up and it covers most of my target if I'm mostly just throwing straights and stuff. Upper cuts and stuff might be able to get in, kind of just depends on how they have their guard. Hooks, however, if they have that type of guard, or even if their guard is just up here protecting their face, a hook is designed to come in at an angle. Boom. It is designed to go around their guard. Now, the reason that I say that it is a lazy punch is because it's a punch that you can throw that is very effective at its job without moving from your original position. You can just stand straight in front, boom, get around, boom, get around. Not really have to do a whole lot besides just protect yourself when you throw this punch, right? Protecting yourself from your opponent. All the other methods of getting around your opponent's guard or attacking from an angle either requires a body shift, right? Boom, foot shift, boom, messing with their guard, making them turn to get at an angle to where you can just throw a straight at an angle around their guard. So the other options require more work, more strategy. A hook punch just requires you to stand here and just go around their guard. It works, very lazy, still highly effective. Now, how do we throw a hook? So there's two main ways, but I have like a third way, and it's for my own reasons. But for the first two, both of them kind of require a loading of, I usually like throwing the hooks if I'm gonna throw them with my front hand. But whichever side you're gonna throw that hook usually requires a loading, right? A loading to try to get like the required power or desired power that the person wants. So hooks are best done not as your first attack. They're best done usually in the middle of, right, a combo or at the end of a combo. Simply because you usually need that preload position in order to throw that hook. Boom. But the other two ways we can throw this, the first one is that our hand, our arm, and our body all move together, right here, preload, however you want to set that up. And as I rotate, my hand and my arm are going together. Same thing whether we're going to the head or to the body. The second way is more of a whipping action. This is usually what most people like to do. And this kind of gets a little bit more into why I typically don't throw hooks of these two ways. So in order to do the whipping motion here, we preload, the body unwinds. The body unwinds. Now switch my feet here so you can see this better. But in order to throw this second one here, my body unwinds and my hand and my arm hold back just a little bit. Where the first one, they kind of went together. Boom. The second one, it holds back, and almost like how a whip does this delayed action, right? It's kind of the same thing. 1, 2, 3 is how the whip is. Boom. Still quite effective. If your person has like a good hold on your timing or whatever, adding a slight delay within some of your attacks is a pretty good tactic. But as I said, these two versions of doing a hook I don't particularly like, even though they are still very effective and doable, is one, because it kind of is better done in the middle of a combo. It requires you to preload. And when you go to throw this hook, you still kind of have this open space to you in order to, right, from here or from this side. And unless you purposely, because you kind of have like all this where someone can come in with an underhand or even overhand right more, unless you purposely train that your opposite hand, instead of coming to this side, comes to here more in front, unless you purposely train that kind of thing, you kind of open yourself up more to stuff. So this is kind of where we get into my version, or the way that I prefer to do this. And again, this is kind of why I prefer, if I'm going to throw hooks, I like to do it with my front hand, is that I kind of treat hooks more as straight punches. They're just straight punches that have a little kink or something in my arm. And I'll kind of go over this a little bit more on like why I purposely do this. It has to deal with ranges and distance and stuff. But so when I go to throw my hook is where technically a straight would go right straight down the center, boom, to the chin. I just treat my hook as if I'm going to throw a hook just outside on the other side of their guard, right? I can go here, I can go here. It looks just like a normal straight. The only difference is when I get past wherever their hand or arm is, or their glove, as soon as I get past, I kind of keep this bend in my elbow, and then I just crank over. And if their arm happens to be in the way, then it just moves their hand out of the way. It doesn't really matter, right? Boom, boom, boom. So I do this one because it allows me to have a minimal open space versus all this, right? If I divide this up versus here, it's automatically smaller, and then I just rotate in. Whether I'm doing the front hand or even the back hand, it still allows me to kind of keep this open space much smaller versus a normal traditional type hook. One of the other reasons why is because it looks like a normal straight, right? Looks like a normal straight, is it hides it better. If I'm constantly doing bop, 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 the only indicator they have I might be doing something different is just this, boom, right? Boom, boom, boom. It just goes over, just goes over, boom. So hiding the technique is kind of built into it because it just looks like something else. Especially when something I tend to do is I tend to mess with my opponent's guard when I fight. So I can hide this like with a normal jab, I can hide it with that, boom. So typically what people will do if you go to like mess with their hand, they'll try to dip it out of your way. And as they try to dip, that opens this up and I can just go here. Or I can combine 1, 2 to go into my punch. But the other reason that I do my hooks this way is something that I've had like ever since I was a kid. My shoulders really, and I do mean really, hate swinging motions. I've always just either felt a pull or like something to where my shoulders just really don't like these circular type motions. They never really have. They much prefer going straight, boom, for my attacks. So now we're going to go over about distance with hooks. If you talk to traditional people that do like kickboxing, boxing, stuff like this, they will kind of change, not a whole lot, but they will kind of change like what their hands and arms and stuff do, depending on the distance to the target. So that's why you have things called long hooks where you're in your like normal fighting distance or so and you throw, again, a long hook where your arm is almost fully extended besides like the bend that you need in order to get around their guard. Or if they're close in and they throw a hook here, and as you kind of see, they will talk about, you know, should your thumb be turned in towards you, thumb turned up, whatever. It's like, I personally don't care. I'm just going to hit you. But if you kind of notice that the closer that you are, in order to do your hook, you have to have more of kind of a hoop in order to go around from here, right? And this kind of like opens you up unless you're like real close and you're able to busy up their hands in some way to throw this in. You can kind of open yourself up to certain counters and stuff like that. So for me, because I am here and stuff, and I just have to go here in order to unload, I just have to go outside here. And I've pretty much always trained like to like rotate my fists. Like it's just a thing that I've done over the years. Whether I go to the head, doesn't matter like how close I am, or even if I go for body shots here, I still technically rotate my fist in. I don't care which way my thumb is. That's more of a different thing. My hand's still gonna rotate when I hit you, I don't care. But with the way that I do it is, this goes back to when we want to punch something, right? When our hand lands, is we want as straight of a line as possible from our knuckles to our elbow. So I don't want to try to either twist my wrist this way or this way, right? We want this to be straight. And if you wear regular like boxing gloves and stuff like this, whether it's for actual matches or even training, and you watch on how people hit when they throw hooks, because of the size and the shape of the glove, they will actually wind up hitting like with these knuckles or like more in this area and not this area. But if when we punch, we focus on having a straight line this way and a straight line this way, it doesn't matter if we do a long hook or anything because it just goes straight and I'm just fully extending my arm if that's what I want to do. Again, if their arm just happens to be in the way, doesn't matter, it's going to move the arm. Or if I happen to be in close, I'm just coming over, flicking this elbow up, and when I do that, it automatically just puts my fist close to or against their head, and then I rotate, and that's my punch. So because I focus that I want to hit this way, it doesn't matter if I'm close going to the head, close going to the body, no, or if I'm further away, right, and to the head or to the body. Because I'm mostly focusing on landing here, I can be far going in, or I can be close going in, because I'm just focusing on just driving my fist and elbow into the target. So it kind of doesn't matter what angle I come at or how close I am, as long as I get that going into them. So that, again, I'm treating this like a straight, boom, it's just coming at an angle without me moving my body and doing a hit. But again, pay attention when you're seeing people boxing or training and stuff like this. Take note on how their hand actually hits the target, like what position, because this is on how to throw hooks or punches and stuff like this without gear. With gear, you can get away with a lot. So this is why like long hooks and stuff like this are the way that they are, because they wind up hitting like this. Still very effective because of the nature of the gear within the game that they play. But you hit somebody's raw noggin with your hand like this with nothing protecting it, you're really going to damage your hand, especially if you don't do any conditioning training for your knuckles. So that's why here, all right, here. It also works on moving their guard out of the way automatically. So that's it for today's video. I hope y'all probably learned something. I really hope that y'all will try this. If nothing else, just experiment with it. See if you can kind of add it in at certain points in times and see what you think. Because remember, if you don't want to get wrecked by somebody else, you need to get good. And you're going to want every advantage you can possibly take. So I'm Matic, and I'll catch y'all next time.